Welcome to Chatsunami. Hello everybody, and welcome to the 100th episode of Chatsunami. My name's Chatsunami, and joining me after all this time, and also bringing his own live audience, is the one, the only, Adam. Adam, welcome to the 100th episode.
Hello, and thank you. Oh, no, please. Enough of that. You're the real heroes. It's all you. But no, it's really us. Hello, it's good to be back, and I can't believe we've made it. I can't believe I've made it more than anything. I can believe you've made it because you're the rock. Chatsunami is the rock that keeps this ship afloat, while I am more the anchor, dragging along, getting caught in things on the seabed.
Well, if I'm the rock, you're the glue that holds us together.
Well, thank you. Well, I mean, I feel that's just stroking my ego, but you know, I do appreciate. I'll never say no to that. My fragile ego.
Also, before we go on, did you pay the audience?
We were meant to pay them.
I thought you were paying them.
Maybe let's keep this. Let's maybe get the show going before. It's okay, people. Everything is fine. I've got some Skittles in my cupboard. That'll assuage them for a little bit.
What's that? Your side hustle? The witch from Hansel and Gretel?
I feel I'm not allowed. The Red Panda lawyer is telling me no comment.
Yeah, he's got the tiny clipboard and everything and the wee earphones, and he's going, no!
Shut it down.
Shut it down. Yeah, David Cage is in the other corner.
my mentor, David Cage.
Your life coach. Yeah. I'm glad we're on the same wavelength there.
I'm doing this recording in my underwear right now.
No.
David suggested.
He does know that we've got our own equipment. He didn't have to bring the camera.
Well, I did tell him that, but no, he brought everything. He brought the camera, the QuickTime events, the inappropriate nudity.
I was going to say, it's weird that he brought his own penthouse with him.
I know. It's quite the mess here at my abode right now, with David Cage just shoving his penthouse suite on top of the roof.
Anyway, welcome, David.
Should I say for legal reasons this is a joke?
Yeah, let's say it, because it's 2022. We should really make that clear.
I really don't want David Cage's penthouse on my roof. I feel this would be like the crime that a judge would be like, because you've besmirched the name of the sainted David Cage, we are now going to attach your house to his. I'm like, oh no! You know, and then leave origami things outside my door.
I was going to say it probably would be easy to find him in Scotland, because I can't imagine there's many origami stores in Scotland.
Have you not done a Google search for origami stores in your area? They're everywhere.
Totally not looking that up. Right now.
Oh my god. Nam and Jane's coming to your house now.
Is that who that is? I thought it was just like a guy in sunglasses.
Is there somebody just crawling around the floor being like, oh no, my drugs?
So, I can't... Well, there's one called Origami Fox.
Oh,
Well, here's the question. Do hobbycraft stores and art shops, do they count as origami stores?
They definitely do, because that's the way that you hide that you're just an origami specialized shop. You just go, oh no, we're hobby and crafts. So that way when the feds come a-looking, they're like, oh, all checks out, but really you're just all about kidnapping kids and making origami.
I'm sorry, but the Works and Paper Tiger do not count as origami shops.
That was the first thing I thought when we said origami. I thought of the Works.
Can you imagine that's the reason they don't catch the origami killer is because he shops in the Works?
It's because it's a 90% sale off again. They get distracted.
Well, I mean, they bought that and The Art of War by Sun Tzu in there, so, you know.
Nice.
You think I'm joking, by the way, but they do sell The Art of War in there.
I mean, what else would you go to the Works for, to be honest?
Well, romance books and cheap paint.
Sounds like a fun weekend.
Anyway, so today we are going to be talking about our failed business ventures, our romantic retreats for the artistically enabled.
Well, if this podcast ever fails, we could always go into, we could make a romance podcast called Cheap Paint and Romance Books.
I am not starting a podcast with you called Love Tsunami.
How to woo your love tsunami. I love it. Oh my god. That sounds incredible, but also quite dirty as well. I love it.
At the same time, though, it would be very underwhelming if you're expecting something saucy and things for a podcast like that, and then you just get us saying, do you know who I don't like? David Cage.
And buy cheap paint.
Oh my god, imagine if David Cage starred in that. Number 1.
David Cage. Coming to cinemas this October. Cheap Paint, starring David Cage. stage. Give me all the paint and shut it down.
Shut it down. Oh, I love that video so much. Can you believe has it been over 2 years now since we filmed that Heavy Rain playthrough?
My God. It must be getting close. It must be at the very least a year and a half, but probably more.
Oh, I can't believe that. That is honestly one of the funnest playthroughs I think I've ever played on the channel.
Oh, it's so good. Go watch it if you haven't seen it, and if you have seen it, go watch it again because I'm very proud of that one.
You and I both, because if you don't want to watch the full thing, there is a compilation video over on Chatsunami 42 on YouTube. So if you want to watch it, please feel free because it's absolutely fantastic. It's about an hour long, right enough, that compilation, because there were so many good moments in it.
God, it was just. I think there was at least one thing in every episode. I don't think there was like a down episode. There was always something going on.
The bit that made me laugh the most was when we were trying to recreate the scene where Madison, one of the characters in the game, interrogates, and I'm using that word very loosely here, Paco. And then, like, we tried to recreate it with Nam and Jaden. And I don't know what it is, but just your reaction to that, it sends me straight through the roof every time. I'm just like, oh, it's so funny.
Do you know, if I'm ever having like a down point in my life, I just think I'm like, well, it could be worse. I could be Chatsunami trying to do a contextual input.
Oh yeah. I still can't believe that prompt doesn't work.
It was the best thing ever. Because when the best was when we just the very first one when you were trying to give that guy the card. It was just like, oh no. Oh no. Oh, it was so funny.
I mean, for context, the prompt in question is like a semicircle that you're supposed to do with the right thumbstick. And yeah, it just, for some reason, the PC version just doesn't let you do it. And I was absolutely raging because that's one of the most important things you need to do when you're doing the first trial. You have to give over your card to is it the mechanic?
It's a mechanic, yeah.
Yeah, Roy the mechanic. And I physically couldn't do it because the controller wasn't working. Works fine with the mouse and keyboard, but not for that. So yeah.
Can I just say I love how you showed your Heavy Rain nerddom there by knowing that the mechanic was called Roy.
Oh, I watched the compilation video recently. That's
fair enough. I was like, that's just showing off your knowledge now.
I think it's Roy, because we both said he was the origami killer, and boy, was our faces red.
When he totally was.
Yeah, clearly, yeah.
Red with pride. Satisfaction.
If you go to our Wattpad page, you'll see our fan fiction on the subject. That's Wattpad/Chatsit. No, again, for legal reasons, massive joke. Please don't look that up because you either A, won't find anything, or B, you'll be harassing an innocent person who's like, why the hell are people talking about Heavy Rain here? I write Sonic fan fiction, for God's sake.
I have class.
But can you believe, though, that Season 2, moving off of David Cage for a second here, but can you believe that Season 2 was like the beginning of so many new things for the podcast?
Oh, no, it's amazing like what we've covered throughout these 50 episodes. As you say, new things for the podcast, but so many new experiences for myself as well. So many new games that I came across and delved into, so it's been absolutely fantastic.
Not to mention we started the theme months as well, such as the Halo month, the Sonic month, which I have to admit, the Sonic month was by far my favourite.
Sonic month was great. The theme months have been probably my favourite addition to the podcast this season. I love the Halo one, but I would probably agree with you. I think Sonic was the best. I think we kind of refined the concept by that point, and it was just a lot of fun for me to just like dive headfirst into the sea of Sonic that I don't think I'd even like really dabbed my toe into before. So it was a lot of fun.
I'm just going to point this out again because I did point it out on the episodes itself, but I was surprised it was you who approached me and said, do you want to do a Sonic month? Because that way I had it in the back of my head, but I was like, nah. Adam's not really into Sonic. You haven't really played the games growing up, so it's like a big ask. And I was like, nah, put it to the back of my mind. And then you came up to me one day and you were just like, hey, do you want to do a Sonic month? And I was like, I thought you'd never ask. You had me at Sonic.
I went from a Sonic virgin to sitting here right now in the back of my head going, running around at the speed of sound.
I thought you were going to say a Sonic Chad there.
No, I don't think I'm quite there yet, but
yeah,
good time.
Just sitting there in blue body paint, just like...
hey, ladies. Want to see my spin dash?
Local man arrested for getting cheap blue paint everywhere. Sonic the Hedgehog killer not identified.
Oh, it'll be worth it, though. Is that the one move? If you could do one move from a video game would the spin dash be yours?
I think I would throw up, to be honest. I still get nervous doing like a forward roll because I know, like, when I was younger, okay, for some weird reason, I used to be really good at backward rolls.
Oh, nice.
I don't know why, not great, I'm not saying like, oh, I was the number one in Scotland for backward rolls, but I always remember I could do them for some weird reason, but I could never do, like, I could do the front ones, but I hated doing them because I would always do it where it was like slow motion, and I was like, so my head would like be rolling across the floor, be like, this cheap gym mat that they give you, the really thin ones in school.
Yeah, the one that'll definitely protect your neck and your spine if you land on.
But what about you, actually? Would that be yours, would you say?
It's very tempting. Although, like, part of me is like that thing that, like, I feel would be great in theory until, like, I instantly, like, smash through a wall or something, and or a fence or something. So, I don't know, actually. That's unlimited sprint, I think, would always be a fun one. Yeah, if you could just sprint without getting tired, that would be incredible. Or, like, the ability to, now, in fairness, we don't know what happens to the characters' like, knees and legs when they do this in games, but, like, being able to do the Call of Duty, like, slide. I can't remember what they call it, but it's not a slide dash or something, but you know what I mean? Like, when you sprint,
Yeah.
like, again, we don't know. Maybe they are like ripping their legs to shreds, but I'm going to presume they're not. But the ability to do that.
So what you're saying is you wouldn't want the homing attack?
Oh god, no! Because I always mess up the homing attack. I always end up like flying off especially in some of the games. I always ended up like flying off the edge and like killing myself. So that would clearly happen in real life. And also, why do you need a homing attack? Like what's going on in your daily life that you need a homing attack for?
See, I was thinking this, I thought that it would not be useful, but then I thought, can you imagine all the people you could mess with?
If you had the Mormons coming up towards your door, you'd be like, homing attack!
Bum bum! Thank God I've got unlimited sprint as well. They'll never catch me.
But can you imagine, right, again, it's a fun concept, but can you imagine, let's say you do that, okay, let's say the Mormons are coming up to your door to speak to you, and you're like, I'm not got the time today, I'm just going to get rid of them, homing attack. You do a homing attack, and then the police arrive, you've crushed one of their heads, but hole through one of the other's bodies, and it's just there's blood and limbs and organs everywhere, and the police come up, and you're like, well, I didn't know, it was all fine in Sonic.
They were robots.
Yeah, exactly, like, what happens to the robots? What the hell is going to happen to a human being when you, like, homing attack into their body?
But the question is, can you imagine if you're talking to like a nice old person or like a child or something, and you're like, hey, you want to see a trick? And then you jump up and you just home and dash away from them. And it's
Okay.
What's the distance? No, I'm not saying home and attack them.
I genuinely thought that's what you meant. I thought you were talking to old Muriel and you're like, hey, do you want to see a trick? And you just homing attack straight into her.
I got her rings. Zoom. Do you know what would be terrible to have? See, as like a real ability from Sonic, the boost ability.
Oh, yeah, I know what you mean, because like literally I can barely get Sonic to avoid obstacles in the way, so there's no way. I mean, it would literally be, if anybody's seen The Boys, it would literally be the very first bit of The Boys is what would happen to me.
I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry.
Oh, I can't stop.
Maria, are you breathing? Maria? Do you know who we haven't brought up yet?
Who have we not brought up yet?
Professor Gerald Robotnik.
Oh,
That was a laugh.
praise be. Let us honor. Homing attack your nearest Mormon in honor of Professor Gerald Robotnik. I'm sorry if there's any Mormons listening. You people are great.
For legal reasons and like just in general, we are joking. But for some reason, that's the first thing you think of when people come to your door.
It's just I imagine as well they'd be the nicest people. They'd be the most understanding. If you're homing attack into your local postie, I don't think he'd be very understanding.
No, because especially if they're like Newman from Seinfeld, it's like,
Oh my god, though, that would just be. I'm just imagining like Newman's face now as you're like homing attacking after him. Like, that's the face he's got inside that.
Hello, Newman.
Do you know there was I don't know if you heard, there was an April Fool's that went around. It must be nearly 10 years ago now, because I'm sure it was when I was doing my undergrad at uni. There was an April Fool's went around that the actor Wayne Knight, who plays Newman inside, also plays, what's the guy in Jurassic? You know, the bad guy in Jurassic Park.
Oh, yeah.
Nedry or something. He also plays him. There was a rumor going around that the actor Wayne Knight had died by falling into a combine harvest. I don't mean to laugh. I'm laughing because it's not true. That was the April Fool that went around. And honestly, to me, like, as tragic as that is, there's something hysterically funny just thinking about Newman falling into a combine harvest.
What is that? The prison special of Seinfeld?
No, I'm just imagining Kramer and Newman open a farm, and then at a point Newman just falls into the combine harvesters, and Kramer's like, "Oh!" You know, his face, like, "Oh no!"
You did what? I swear, Jerry, I didn't know. I thought it was turned off. Yeah, but surely you must have known it was dangerous. Listen, I didn't know. Okay,
It's like, Jerry, I've got a big problemo.
Yeah, if you can't tell, I've been binging a ungodly amount of Seinfeld, partly due to one of my friends showing me it, but partly due to you as well, Adam.
My incessant babbling on about it.
Did I tell you, by the way, I nearly caused a Twitter war by
Oh,
asking
God.
people, what do you prefer, Friends or Seinfeld? And, for me, I never watched Seinfeld growing up, but I did watch a lot of Friends. And for some reason, I thought the nostalgia factor would be there. And don't get me wrong, there was a lot of people there that did say, oh, we like Friends better than Seinfeld. But the overwhelming majority were either Seinfeld hands down, or why not watch Frasier instead, or something else. Oh, okay.
The hipsters are coming out in force.
Yeah, I never watched much Frasier either, I have to say.
Frasier is very good. In fact, my partner is a big fan of Frasier. It is very funny. It's all on well, it certainly was. It was all on All 4, which is a Channel 4's streaming service here in the UK. It is very good. Like I still prefer Seinfeld a lot more. Yeah, I've never really watched that much Friends, so I don't really not got much knowledge of Friends, but Frasier's good. But I'm pretty sure it's quite clear where I sit on that divide of the question you asked.
So what you're saying is you want a Seinfeld-like comedy featuring us.
Yeah, I'm saying I want a Seinfeld episode where Kramer and Newman are on a combine harvester running down the cast of Friends.
I like it. Get in contact with Larry David.
Come on, Larry, I know you're doing Curb, but this is gold. It's gold, Jerry.
It's the future, Jerry. So, looking back to the podcast, are there actually any favourite moments you've had with this season?
I think Sonic Month is definitely up there. It was a lot of fun to play those games, a lot of fun to research others. It was great just to hear like your thoughts on it. That was one of my favourite bit, was just hearing your like reminiscences and thoughts on the series. I loved both trivia. We've done 2 trivias so far, one for Halo and one for Sonic, and I didn't acquit myself very well with the Halo one, but I did a lot better at the Sonic one. But the Sonic one was so much fun, just hearing all these random like questions that you were putting out to me and everything. So I think that'd probably be my favorite. I mean, there's been some. I really enjoyed getting to play Kangao's games, To the Moon and Finding Paradise. That was really great as well. Getting to experience those games that I'm pretty sure I never would have heard of, let alone come into contact, if not for this podcast and for yourself, Satsu. So that was great. I've seen some great anime as well this one, thanks to yourself and Green Shield. So that's been great to kind of delve into that world. And yeah, I got to look at some old favorites as well. It was fun to redo the Cornetto trilogy right at the beginning of this season. Do like the Daniel Craig Bonds. I forgot we did a Jingle All the Way episode as well.
Oh yeah, that was fantastic.
So that was great. So it's been a great mix. A lot of great new things, but also some old classics.
And it is amazing to think that we moved from going to Twitch to do these episodes, because for anyone who doesn't know, and I know I say this a lot, but we used to do these episodes live on Twitch. So the first 50 episodes, I want to say, we did them all completely live. Yeah, then we kind of moved on, and we still used the same software and things until, I can't actually remember when we made the shift, but it was like a good couple of episodes in before I discovered what Zencaster was. And again, as of this episode anyway, it's not sponsored by Zencaster, but my god, it is such a good application to use. Because do you remember how we used to do these episodes?
I think I do now. I'm going to rack my brain now, because it just feels like Zencaster just feels like the way it's always been now, but as you say, it's not. Oh goodness, what was it again?
So, and this is going to make me sound like an absolute barbarian, but I remember when we did it live on Twitch, I just took the audio from our streams and just edited them, which was all fair and good. But then after that, I had no idea applications like Zencaster, or I think the other popular one is Riverside.fm. There's quite a few of them, but I couldn't find any at the time. So what I would do is I would record Adam and I's calls on Streamlabs OBS. So I would basically just get up a screen, hit record, and then record our Discord audio, which I have to say, looking back on it, I'm like, how did we get to like 50 episodes that way? I don't know.
That's cool. That's putting in the hard work. Yeah, that's grinding. That's grinding for that first bit. Made you the man you are today, or the red panda you are today. Sorry, I should say.
You know, I just push back and there's no legs, no arms, just a husk of a former man.
Just a torso.
But no, for real, I remember doing those, and the worst ones for me were when we did 3-person interviews, or rather 3-person episodes. And I always remember doing it with yourself, me, and Craigie C, or Green Shield 95, who is of course another co-host of the channel. We did so many episodes like that, but it was just the thing I don't like about it, and this is my insecurities, noise leaking through here, but one of my things was whenever one of us was talking, it was kind of hard to narrow down where the noise was coming from. So I would be talking, or you would be talking, and you might hear a bark in the background, or someone decided. In fact, the funniest one to me, I can't remember what episode it was. It might have been the Beyblade episode we did, but it was the one where we were talking about something, and then all of a sudden you just hear like glass smash in the background, and I was like, "What the hell was that? Someone breaking in?"
That was on my end. I forgot I'm near a glass recycling bit. I'm so used to that noise that I don't think it registers for me.
I was just like, what the hell was going on here? Yeah, like it was a lot harder back then, but because we use Zencaster, it splits up all the audio files. So it means that if I make a stupid noise, or if there's any like interference in either your end or anybody else's end, I can just edit it out easy. Again, this isn't an advert for Zencaster, but Zencaster, if you are listening, love you. It's like, I love you. Please sponsor me. Please give me money, please.
We'll buy you cheap paint.
Cheap paint and origami. We know how to show you a good time.
We know the language of love.
Anyway, this is the final episode of Chatsunami. We will be rebranding to Love Tsunami after the cancelled after 3 episodes. Anyway, it's going to be the next Love Island, damn it, okay?
Oh my god, I love it.
For legal reasons, no, I am not going to ask our artists that do artwork for the channel to draw like the panda or the sandwich in like a Speedo. It's not happening, guys.
Oh my god, the horror.
Get your minds
Horror
out
of
the
a
gutter.
sandwich in a Speedo. While I just go vomit for a minute.
Usually this is the part where I say, can you imagine that? But no, I don't want you imagining that.
Live studio audience, stop. They're all throwing up at the minute.
Like, I mean, considering before I recorded this, I had a toasty, and I'm thinking, what if you pulled back the toasty press and there was just a Speedo there? Like, you're like, well, I can't eat this now. Put it in the bin.
Wow. We go back to talking about David Cage. This is somehow a more horrifying conversation.
Here's a question for you. What would you rather talk about? David Cage or sandwiches and Speedos?
David Cage. I will play all the David Cage games. We can talk about them for a week straight.
Actually, that is something we need to still do, because Adam and I played through, as we said, Heavy Rain to begin with, and then we started through Detroit Become Human.
Got through quite a lot of Detroit.
We got through a good, like, 2/3 of it, I'm pretty sure. I think the last episode we got to was when we were in I think it was the amusement park.
Oh, of course, yeah.
And we played through that bit, and that was after you encouraged me to shoot an android. So thank you for that.
I'm sure I encouraged you to do a lot of bad things on that one.
Oh, you did. You were like the demon on my shoulder. So just before we go on, do you remember the moment when I couldn't remember the word for kitchen?
I don't remember that one.
So I called it the breakfast chamber.
Breakfast chamber. I mean, why is it not called the breakfast chamber, in fairness?
Is that a thing, though, that you would have to change throughout the day? You know, like if it's the breakfast chamber in the morning, would you have to call it the lunch chamber?
No. No, you just changed the words lunch and dinner. So rather than lunch, it's now afternoon breakfast, and then rather than dinner, it's evening breakfast.
I like the
Easy
way
fix.
you think. No, I like the way you think. And speaking of questions, which, yeah, I have to admit are a lot better than the ones I've been asking you just now.
I don't know, these have been hard-hitting journalistic questions right now, so...
Look, all I'm saying is, where were you on December 5th of last year?
Um,
When those postmen were mysteriously homing attacked?
Well, after my afternoon breakfast, I launched up a David Cage game, and the rest is a blur, Your Honour.
So, as you may know, if you follow the Chatsunami channel on Twitter, we have been asking fellow listeners and fellow podcasters, content creators for questions about, as you said, like hard-hitting questions, both on a personal level and more on a podcast level. And we've also got some really lovely audios and audio questions in. See, without any further ado, will we jump into these questions and give the people what they want rather than David Cage chat?
That's true, they've indulged us long enough, they've been very patient.
They have, and I'm just looking now, and yep, the audience has left the building, so now we can move on. Are you ready for the first questions?
Let's do it.
Okay, our first questions come from Blowfishman TV, who, if you haven't seen him already, he is a fantastic Twitch streamer and voice actor, and he's also been on the channel before. He did a lot of the JoJo's Bizarre Adventures episodes with me, and he's also been on to interview. All I'll say is, Adam, when are you going to watch JoJo's Bizarre Adventures?
The day I rot in hell. No. Don't
Adam!
make me, damn it. No, I'm just joking. It sounds like a wild show. It sounds like something that would be worth even just watching a little bit of. Not that I'd probably understand much, but it just seems like one of these like experiences that you'd just be like, I need to at least try this in my life. So yeah, like I mean, I don't know. Well, you set up an episode and I'll get watching.
And that is the genuine last episode of Chatsunami, probably.
So I go insane afterwards. I'll dial in from the asylum I end up in. I'm carving the semicircle prompt into the wall.
All these circles make a square. All these circles make a square. So, going back to Blowfishman TV, his first question is, what was the hardest episode to record for? That is a good question. Have you got any thoughts on this one?
Very good question. I mean, not just looking at of all the episodes we've done, the answer is Birdemic because I had to watch Birdemic.
True.
If narrowing it down to season 2. Kind Words was a challenging. It wasn't like it was challenging to. The thing with Kind Words was more like my own kind of apprehension about going into it and like playing the game. That was kind of a challenge for me because I was kind of worried to get into it because of what it is and everything. But I'm so glad I did. Like I'm really glad to have experienced that. Outside of that, the open world one was the episode we did not that long ago about have open world games reached their limit. That was challenging in a way just because there's so much out there and there was so much interesting material and it was trying to like listen to everything I could and condense it down. And then after the episode, I found more stuff. And I'm like, oh, this has been great to bring up. So that was challenging just in that way. There was so much interesting material out there. It was trying to like absorb it all. But I mean, there's nothing that I've ever thought, how the hell am I ever going to do this? But yeah, I guess maybe some of my own like assumptions and just my own like desire to know are the big challenges. But what about yourself, Satsu?
Some of the episodes, I would say, maybe not on a technical level, but I remember 2 episodes I kind of struggled getting organised. And again, it's nothing to do with the people themselves because they're fantastic episodes, but it was when I did 2 of the Streamer Spotlight interviews with 2 creators from halfway across the world. That, of course, being Suzuki BGE and Glitter Kitty 1. So, Glitter Kitty lives in Australia and Suzuki lives in the Philippines. So, it was very hard to sync the times together, if that makes sense. It was really hard to kind of get it arranged because I was doing it at midnight my time and they were getting up really early in the morning. It was just really hard to juggle those kind of time differences. The only other one I can think of on a technical level was probably when we did the Death Note episode, because as I said, there wasn't really anything to do with the episode itself, but because we were mixing the audios together, it was quite hard to edit it together because there was like background noise from myself, from other places, and it was just really hard to splice it together and make it into like a kind of coherent and listenable episode. And again, it's nothing to do with like you guys or myself, but it's just more ever since like Zencast and things like that, we're able to like split it out, which was good. There was a lot of episodes that I feel as if this season's been a lot more hard hitting. Would you agree with that?
I think so, definitely. I think I feel like we've covered a kind of wide range of topics this season, and certainly a lot of things that I'd never really had experience of before. So definitely in that regard, I think you could say it is more kind of been more hard hitting.
Because we've had our What Makes a Good Horror Game episode, we've had, as you said, the Kind Words episodes, the To the Moon and Finding Paradise episodes. They've all been, in fact, we've even had the Edith Finch one, which was absolutely fantastic to research, but it has a lot of hard hitting themes.
Definitely, like we have covered some more mature. We even had that one on mature mature content in games as well. We've had definitely a lot more quote unquote mature thematic elements this season.
Absolutely. So the second question is, what is your process of making episodes? Oh, now this is a fun one. Adam and I, thanks to you, Adam, we've got pretty much a list, don't we, of like episodes we've done and like potential episodes.
Yeah, well, we have a document. We both. It's not just me. Does it? Chatsunami does a lot as well on it. But we keep track of, as you say, what we've done, what we potentially would like to do, and we sometimes write up episodes that are like coming up in the future so we can prepare for them. But yeah, I suppose that's the very starting point, isn't it?
And then we really just decide on a topic. Like we'll look through the list, or if there's anything that would be good for really like the time. So for example, in I think it was season 1, we did an episode on the 20th anniversary of Xbox, which meant that we were having to push back I can't remember if it was the Bioshock Infinite episode, but we had to push that back because we thought, we could do the anniversary episode before that and that kind of thing. So yeah, yeah, that's kind of the starting point. We do that, we figure out what episodes we're going to do, we arrange a time with one another to record over Zencaster, and then I spend hours on end editing it and making myself not look like a dumbass. So that's always the case.
And honestly, like my involvement in the process is severely limited. It is really Chatsunami who like carries it to completion and does all the heavy lifting and the hard work. So all props to him for everything, really.
I mean, to be fair, you are there when late at night I'm just moaning like, I've lost the episode, I can't do this.
Well, it's the very least I can do.
Actually, that did happen. So I was editing the penultimate episodes of this season, and we were talking about
Doom. Semper Fi.
Semper Fi. And I remember I had edited about 40 minutes of it out of, I think I had got it down to like an hour 20 or an hour 10, something like that. And I was like, oh, I'm so happy that I've nearly done this, because I did a little bit up here, and then I plugged my hard drive into my old laptop to edit it downstairs, and I thought, oh, this is great. So, you know, going back and forth. But then I went to plug it into the computer up here, and for some reason, Audacity wouldn't read the file. Long story short, I lost 40 minutes worth of editing. That was depressing, to be honest. But no, we got there in the end. I redid it, and yeah, we're back on track.
It just shows what a champion you are. To go through that and have to do it all again. You are a true champion. And as I say, literally the thing that keeps us going. The engine, the captain, the hull, everything.
You severely underestimate yourself.
No, I think I overestimate. I think I'm overestimating myself by saying that, to be honest.
So for the next question, Blowfish asks, which podcast would you like to collaborate with in the future if you had that possibility? This is going to sound like such a cheap get out of jail free answer, but all of them really, or most of them. Well, with the exception of something like Joe Rogan, I wouldn't be interested in that.
Oh, that was exactly what I was going to say. I was like, come on, Joe, let's do it. You can tell us about how to avoid COVID.
Yeah. Slight tangent / rant, but I think I've said this story before. I was interviewing someone for this podcast, and I remember at the very end she turned around to me and she said, oh, thank you for not being sexist and being offensive or anything. I was like, wait, what? Well, that's the bare minimum you would want from a podcast. And she sent me all these links of like these people who, the reason they've got views is because they're so controversial, and they're like, misogynistic view this, phobic view that. And I was like, oh, and these are obviously like channels that are very popular because they're controversial and things. So anyone's like that, I would not want to collaborate with. But to be honest, I've actually been loving when we do collaborate with like either smaller podcasts or, and when I say smaller podcasts, I mean podcasts that are like a similar size to us. I don't mean podcasts that are smaller than us, because come on, we don't have that big an ego. But yeah, we've worked with other podcasts like the Beer and Chill podcast and Casting Views as well. That's been fantastic. So honestly, I would love to go on most podcasts. Yeah, hit us up if you want to see us.
So Joe Rogan's not going to appear on your spotlight section then anytime soon?
Sadly, no. I doubt he even knows what a Chatsunami is. For obvious reasons, but I don't...
Well, that says more about him, to be honest.
What the hell is Love Tsunami? What about yourself, though? Is there any podcast you would want to?
No, I'll just co-sign everything you said there. Like, I mean, you've done a lot more than I have, actually, but yeah, like I would love to get involved doing some more with some other podcasts and stuff. So yeah, as Satsunami says, you know, if you're cool, chill people, like yeah, you're always welcome on here. We can chat about whatever for whatever topic.
So the next one is a bit more personal. It is favorite D&D class to play, and what is your least favorite? So I'm going to let you answer this one first, Adam.
I unfortunately don't have a ton of experience playing a lot of different D&D classes. I mean, the one that I've played the most is Ranger. I'd started to play a cleric in the last game, and I'd actually been quite enjoying that, so that I'll pick that one as my favorite, because there seemed to be a lot of like potential to mix and match between, you know, with your different weapons, but also like a lot more kind of magic abilities. So that was a lot of fun. Oh god, this is where I just rack my brain to think of all the classes. One that I don't think has ever really interested me is something like Fighter. I don't know, it just seems a bit kind of, and that's not to, you know, if you really enjoy playing Fighter, and I'm sure it's a much more like complex class than I'm giving it credit for, but to me it just seems like a kind of generic one. So that's one that I probably have the least interest in playing, but they all seem like really kind of interesting classes with a lot of different things. So yeah, I'd be up for playing any class.
You'll probably know what my favourite class is, Adam.
Is it a bard?
It's a bard. Yeah, I love bards. And the reason that I chose a bard, and I think I've said this in one of the previous episodes where I talked about my first character in Dungeons & Dragons, Blumro the Bard, of course, a well-meaning gnome that got himself into some rightful shenanigans with yourself. And I remember the reason like I decided to play a gnome bard was because when I was in university, one of my flatmates got me into playing a little bit of Lord of the Rings Online, which unfortunately Blimbro's characters lost to time, but I ended up choosing to play a hobbit minstrel called Blimbro, and I actually forgot that halflings were a thing in D&D. Like I thought, oh yeah, hobbits, yeah. And I thought, what's the closest thing to a hobbit? Oh well, a gnome. I'll go for a gnome. But in all seriousness, I'm kind of glad I went for a gnome rather than a halfling, because I don't know, it gives Blimbro his own character and everything. So yeah, no, I would say bards. Again, I'm the same. I don't really have any experience with other classes. I would love to play maybe a paladin so I could like role play as, like I did play as a paladin once, never again, but the only other character I could think of is maybe a monk. I would really love to play as a monk. But again, echoing your sentiment there, no shade to fighters or anything, but I feel as if you'd have to do a lot of role playing to keep the character interesting. But if it's your first time playing D&D, there's no like right or wrong way. But actually, Adam, sorry, before we go on to the next question, did I tell you my mistake playing a bard?
Oh, is this the one where you didn't do enough of the group sort of spells and stuff? Or am I thinking of something completely different?
Well, that too, but it was more like the stereotypes around a bard. Like, have you heard these?
No, what are they?
There's a lot of memes online. For any D&D players, you'll know what I'm talking about here, but long story short, bards are usually characterised as like quite charismatic, smooth, lady killers, flirts with anything, There's a lot of like videos of like people playing bards and it's like, I seduce the dragon, ha 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 ha. Now, I never played my bard this way. I never even realised this was a thing. I never realised that people played the bards this way. So when I'm like going in, causing mischief and playing my lute and everything, and people are like, oh, did you seduce anyone? Ha ha ha. And I'm like, did I what? I beg your pardon.
I mean, you played your bard like a straight up psychopath.
I did actually, yeah. I shrunk an elf. I, what, punched the main villain. I ended up like punching the big bad in our campaign, and I got a nat 20. And even though gnomes aren't known for like their strength or anything, I punched them like directly in the what and got a nat 20. Thought this is the best punch ever. And then I realised it was like a clone of him. It was like a kind of hologram clone thing. And I was like, God damn it, I'd wasted my one good punch for the whole campaign. But yeah, moving on. How hard is your work/life balance? Again, moving that on to you, Adam. What would you say?
Again, I feel bad, but again, because I have such a comparatively limited involvement in the podcast, it's not too bad for me. I mean, it's maybe got a little bit trickier recently because I've started up a new job, which involves me doing a bit of commuting, so I don't have as much time I have to be a bit more restricted in my recording time now with Satsu. But I mean, really, again, it's really nothing I can complain about. Like, I think that's your best answering this question. As I say, you do literally all the heavy lifting and everything to keep this podcast afloat.
All I would say is I'm just really glad that I work from home just now. That might change. I don't know. Like the day that changes, there probably will be less content in the channel. But because I work from home, I'm able to keep an eye on like the social media side of it. I'm able to edit after work. Yeah, that's kind of handy. But I have to admit, I sometimes don't know when to stop treating things, if that makes sense, as content. It's like I'll be watching something on Netflix and I'll be like, oh, I enjoy this show. And then 2 seconds later, I'm like, I wonder if I should ask Adam if we should do an episode on this. And I'm like, yeah, no. So next question, favourite anime of all time? And I'm assuming yours would be Beyblade.
Of course, Beyblade. I mean, apart from Beyblade, probably what's it called? After School Dice Club is one of the first ones I watched, and I found it very sweet and wholesome. There's only one season of it. I don't know if there's ever going to be any more, but I really enjoyed that one. But yeah, I mean, of course, Beyblade is the right one because Carlos is my boy.
What, the 40-year-old man masquerading as a 15-year-old? Or not even 50.
I mean, when you put it like that, it sounds very seedy, but Carlos's intentions are pure. He just wants to get all the Beyblades.
I actually don't know. I would say something like Dragon Ball or maybe JoJo. I don't know. Mine changes all the time. It goes from like slice of life stuff to action to... Yeah, I'm going to go with JoJo. I'll go with JoJo because it's just so bizarre and crazy. And I have good memories of watching it the last couple of years. So yeah, I'll go with that. What got you to start podcasting and or content creating? So I'll give a quick synopsis of this, but long story short, I've always been into content creating. I don't know, were you the same when you were younger, Adam? Did you do a lot of content creating for yourself, or?
I don't know if you could term it content creating. I did do a lot of like imagining and stuff, and like I would make up stories and everything, but I never really put pen to paper, or I don't know, put them in a document or whatever. So I don't know if that's necessarily be termed as content creation. I've really not done any of that in my life, but I guess maybe like the beginnings of content creation, like that kind of. I've done the kind of creating, just not actually made any content.
No, I know what you mean. Yeah, for me, I would say it probably actually started when I was in high school, because I used to have, and this is how old I am now, but I used to have a Bebo page years ago that was about gaming and everything, and absolutely loved doing it. And then when Bebo got shut down, or rather, everyone migrated from Bebo to Facebook. So just to clarify to anyone outside of Europe, yeah, Bebo was like this old social media site before Facebook became so popular. So I did stuff for that. I sometimes did like funny YouTube videos. I've even got a video, and you will never find it, but it is a video where I recreated a scene from Dragon Ball with Sonic sprites, and I think I got like 8,000 views for that, or something 10 years on, or even longer than that. I don't even know if the video's still up, to be honest.
That's pretty impressive, though.
Yeah, and people still comment on it, things like, "Oh, you shouldn't have used Big for this character. Oh, you shouldn't have used Sonic for that." And I'm like,
Get out here, nerds.
it was like, it's a video that's like over 10 years old. Come on, guys, come on. So it kind of just grew from that. I did a lot of creative writing. When the pandemic hit, I was really into my language learning. So I tried doing like videos based on language learning. Didn't really take to that as much. And then Craigie C, of course, from the Beer and Chill podcast, he said, "Why don't you do Twitch streaming?" And I was like, yeah, sure, why not? So I gave it a go. I went down the rabbit hole. And then while I was talking on stream, I kind of thought, you know what? Why don't I do a podcast? Fortunately, because I have to admit, when I started podcasting, I didn't actually realise how long it would go on for, and I didn't really have a plan. I got Craigie C on, and then I thought, okay, who else can I get? And of course, I asked you to come on for the Halo retrospective one, and then you had actually asked me, oh, do you need someone to co-host with you? And going back to what I was saying earlier about you being the glue of the channel, genuinely are, because I think if you hadn't said that or done that at the time, I don't know if the podcast would have still kept going, or I would have been couch surfing from co-host to co-host. So yeah, thank you, Adam, for that.
That's very kind of you to say, and I'm glad if I've at least been able to have that sort of impact on the show, even in any small way. Yeah, I'm like a bad rash. If you've not been able to get rid of me for 2 years, we're coming up to 2 years now. Please don't go see your doctor. I don't want to go.
I was going to say the best kind of rash, but that's not a thing.
That best kind of rash, people. Yeah.
That one that you don't get a prescription cream for. Yeah.
That's the one you keep with you.
And the final question is, how do you personally deal with burnout? For me personally, I would say I just walk away from it. I'm not saying run away from your problems, but I usually take a step back and I say to myself, not so much like, not today, but like I'll take a step back and I'll kind of reassess the situation, and I'll vent to my friends and things. Like, I vented to you several times, Adam, about saying, oh, this isn't working, or oh, I've made a mess up in the editing or something. But what about yourself, though? Like, what would your advice be for people dealing with burnout?
Yeah, I agree. To take a step back, I mean, if you get a chance, if you've got any time, maybe do something completely unrelated. Maybe something that's completely unrelated to anything you're doing in terms of like content creation, podcast, and whatever. If you can, I know it's not always possible, but if you can, maybe just doing something different will help refresh you a little bit. Yeah, like I basically would co-sign what you said. I think that's like the best way to approach it, to be honest.
I've heard so many people in the past say things like, well, when I say things in the past, I mean that kind of grind culture of, if you're going through hell, keep going, which I know it's a Winston Churchill quote. That's not that's not a grind quote exactly, but
Well-known content creator Winston Churchill.
well, I mean, to be fair, he had a lot of content back in the day. Anyway,
Oh, that's true.
this isn't a history podcast yet. Yeah, there's a lot of people that say, oh, if you're going through hell with this, keep going, keep pushing through. And it's like, I would severely disagree with that. If you're feeling tired with what you're creating, please take your mental health breaks, step back a little bit. Just don't push yourself if you're not feeling it. Because I made the mistake of doing that when I was Twitch streaming. Like, I would stream even though I felt down, even though I felt depressed about about certain things, and I was like, yeah, I would watch back the VODs and it would come through, like your energy does come through. And there's that sense of toxic positivity as well. People will come in and they'll say, oh, everything's lovely with the world. You're not going through as many hardships as X or Y person. And just because you're not going through world ending situations, it doesn't mean that you can't feel the way you feel. So, yeah, again, kind of step back, take time to yourself. Thank you to Blowfishman TV for sending in those questions. We now have questions from another friend of the channel, Super Shadow 271, who has also been on the channel talking about Sonic. You ready for the first question?
Hit me with it.
Super Shadow asks, do you have any recommendations for content creators of any kind when it comes to keeping content fresh? I would say personally to do stuff that you enjoy, because I think the worst thing is if you jump on a trend that other people are, jumping onto, but your heart isn't really in it. You might get like views in the short term, but as soon as you jump to something else, all those people are going to leave, because much like the live audience that we just paid for and walked through the door there, oh, that joke's not going to get old. Yeah, people are going to tell if you're phoning it in, because at the end of the day, audiences aren't dumb. They're going to know that something's up. But what would your advice be, though, Adam?
I think this is going to sound like a bad record now, but I think I would echo you again. Annoyingly, I'm saying this annoyingly, but annoyingly, Chatsunami has the way of like saying all the key points. You always seem to know exactly what the most salient points are for anything, and I'm just like, I agree with Chatsunami, like some terrible political ad. But yeah, I honestly can't. I can't think of anything else that I would say. So again, I'll be terrible and co-sign with you.
All those years at university just have left me a nervous wreck.
All my years wasted because apparently I have no capacity for original thought now.
So the next question is a Sonic theme question. Super Shadow asks, when will Satsu give Sonic Lost World the respect it deserves? Never. Next question.
Is it your least favorite? I didn't play it, unfortunately. It was one I couldn't get a hold of easily. But would you say it's your least favorite Sonic game?
Probably not my least favourite, but
Okay.
it's down there. It's down there as one of my least favourites. I don't know, between the kind of childish tone of it and the weird game mechanics, that kind of thing, I don't know. It's a really, really weird one, personally, but I'm not there yet, but maybe if I play more of the game, we'll see. We'll see. So the next question is, what is your biggest gaming regret and why? Same with movies. So I'm going to turn it on to you.
For the gaming side first, I have two. Number one is reading the plot to the original Bioshock before I played the game. I was young at the time. I mean, I was young. I was a teenager, so I was young at the time. I was foolish, and I regret that to my dying days that I didn't have the patience to just wait till I played the game. And then number two, it was brute forcing my way through some of the solutions to Return of the Obra Dinn, a game that we talked about recently. I'm annoyed at myself because when I replayed it again, I realized that there was so many. If I just been a bit more patient, I could have worked out, who some people were and everything. But I kind of started to brute force a little bit towards the end, and I'm annoyed at myself for having done that, because I think I kind of robbed myself a bit of the true magic of that game. So those are my biggest two. In terms of movies, I don't have that many regrets of movies. Like, the one thing is probably introducing my dad to the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise, because he loves those films now, and I've had to watch them quite a few times. And honestly, I don't really like a lot of those films, so I've had to watch them more than I would have liked to in my life. But that's probably it. But how about yourself, Satsu?
Actually, you brought up an interesting point when you said you spoiled Bioshock for yourself, because I did that. I also remember, though, I used to do this a lot in university because, the stereotype poor student. But obviously, I couldn't afford to go out and buy hundreds of like AAA titles at the time. So I remember I would read or watch videos of playthroughs on these certain games. And one of the ones that I did watch, which I regret now, is Spec Ops The Line, because I feel as if I played through that fresh at the time, that would have been like a hard-hitting game. Yeah, I've kind of spoiled it for myself. I still would like to go back and play it. I would like to go and actually play it and experience it for myself. But yeah, I kind of feel bad that I spoiled that. Same with Bioshock as well. The other thing, streaming-wise, is the fact that I streamed Red Dead Redemption 2, and I feel personally that was a big mistake, because I felt a need to rush through the game. So I think I completed it in just over 6 hours, maybe 7. Or no, sorry, not 6 hours, but 6 sessions, so maybe closer to 12. But it's just, I felt as if I had to rush through it. I didn't enjoy it as much as the first one. You had to juggle the chat, and that was my first time playing through it. So yeah, that's my kind of regret game-wise. Movie-wise, I paid full price to see a 3D version of Ghost Rider 2.
Sucker.
It was not cheap. I still want my money back. Yeah, that was not great. Yeah, the only other thing I can think of is having the displeasure to watch Turkish Star Wars. But that's not necessarily my fault, and it's not the fault of our friend Craigie C who showed us the film, because we all thought, oh, it's going to be this funny, oh, we can make fun of it, we can have a laugh, and it's just boring. It's just the most boring film of it. I would watch 1,000 Birdemics before I would watch that, honestly.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I genuinely would. Fight me IRL, I would. Genuinely. And the final question is, Gex or Bubsy? Do you know any of
Gex.
these? Really?
Well, Gex is a lizard. I know that. I
Yeah.
think Gex is a lizard, and
Yeah.
I know Bubsy from his stupid face. So I'll go Gex. I really don't know that much about Gex, but I like lizards.
Do you know, I don't know much about either of these characters other than what I've seen in videos, but I'm pretty sure Gex was one of the last games I ever played before the millennium.
That's cool. Ooh.
Well, the reason being, I'm sure it was Gex. If not, there was a very similar platformer. There must have been a similar platformer with a lizard, but I'm sure it was Gex. The reason I know that is because during the millennium, one of my neighbours was having a party, so all the kids were upstairs playing like the PlayStation, and one of those games was, of course, Gex. And I remember I was just more interested in playing Gex than I was actually, bringing in the bells. And do you want to know what my very first game was for the year 2000?
Oh, I know this one because I'm a true fan. It was Sonic CD, right?
It was a demo for Sonic CD.
Yeah, I remember you saying that.
Yeah, because I was walking home with, well remembered, by the way.
Well, I'm a true fan. What can I say?
Exactly. You've got the t-shirt and everything. Yeah, I was walking home with my mum and dad. I remember turning around to them and saying, oh, can I play Sonic on the PC? And they're like, yeah, sure, for a couple of minutes. I was like, yay. And, I played through the first level. I think it's Palm Tree Panic or something. I can't remember, but because it's not one of my favourite games, ironically enough. But yeah, brought in the 21st century with Sonic. So yeah, that's the kind of fan I am.
The Century of Sonic.
The next question we have is all the way from Egypt, a podcaster called Gihad, who runs a podcast called Illegible Scribbles. And she asks, how do you stick with your niche along the many episodes you've created so far? Good question.
It's a very good question, that one. Again, you'll be able to answer this better than I do, but I feel like our niche is, as much as our niche, it's quite broad in a way, because we cover, video games, films, TV. You've done things on like content creation and things like that. So I think because it's relatively broad, there's a lot of ways to go. So I think that helps us in a way. But what do you think?
No, I would agree with that. It's really difficult to narrow yourself down to a particular topic, because if you're doing it, if you're just focusing on video games or you're focusing on something direct, like it's the same with Twitch streaming. If you focus yourself on one video game, you are going to get like a bigger audience from that, don't get me wrong, but as soon as you decide, oh, I want to play this game, or oh, I want to do this topic, then people aren't going to really follow along with you. It's just giving ourselves that flexibility. Maybe in the short term, it's not great for like growth for the channel, but for the long term, I think it does work. So the next question is it hard to work on the podcast with a partner? Absolutely, 100%.
You can be honest here, I was going to say. Let me have it.
No, see, in all honesty, it's actually been fantastic working with you on this, because as much as I like hearing my own voice clearly, as I said before, I did a lot of Twitch streaming, I had to listen to my own voice, and I do like talking to people and things like that, but with yourself, Adam, or Green Shield, or Craigie C, or anyone else who's been on, it's nice to have someone to like challenge what you're saying or kind of bring up interesting points, because it is one thing if I just sat here and said, I think Sonic's a great game, like all Chatsunami episodes from my end, but the fact, like, Adam, you come in with a new perspective and you say, well, I think this, and it's something I think, oh, well, I never really considered that, and it is great getting that balance, but would you agree with that?
Completely. Like, again, co-sign everything you said. As well, I think doing the podcast with a partner as well, you get introduced to a lot newer things that you probably, well, certainly I don't think I would have, tried without your encouragement and a thought of like, oh, that would be fun to talk about on a podcast. So I say again, I don't think I'd ever have come across Kangao's games at all. I definitely wouldn't have watched, a lot of the anime I've seen for this season. Don't think I'd ever would have played a Sonic game. I wouldn't have like dived into that kind of universe. So from that perspective, it is great, because I think working by yourself, you can very much focus on things that you know well, that you like and everything, and maybe you don't feel as encouraged to like branch out and try new things. You really do, and you get exposed exposed to a lot more stuff. So it's for me, it's great in that respect.
I would agree with that, because without the podcast, I probably wouldn't have played Edith Finch until I was like the same age as Edie Finch.
Too on your deathbed.
Yeah, just have a mural of myself in the tree trunk. So the next question is, do you prepare the episodes by writing scripts? If yes, how do you keep it natural? To be honest, we really improvise these episodes, don't we?
If you can ever tell from Chatsunami does a great job editing, but if you heard the raw footage and listened to me bumble and stumble my way over things, you'd be like, yeah, he's definitely not reading from a script.
Same here. The amount of times I've said something and then I've been like, blah, 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 and tried to say it again, and you're like, oh boy. The only time I write a script for the episodes is when I write them for the Chatsu shorts. So, like the kind of short 10-minute episodes, and I want to kind of articulate myself without utterly rambling into the mic, which I usually do. But yeah, that's what I usually do. Unless it's a Chatsu short, we just keep it free and easy.
That's our motto.
Yeah.
Free and easy and cheap paint.
I mean, if you've heard the ending, stay safe, stay awesome, stay hydrated, keep it free and easy, and cheap paint. So, next question is, name the platforms you've used so far and which is the best. So, in terms of platforms, I'm going to assume you mean the podcast platform. So, we actually started out on Anchor and now we're hosted on Zencaster as of this episode. It's kind of early days to say, but I feel as if there's more growth on Zencaster. But in terms of like social media platforms, I would say we're quite active on Twitter and TikTok as well. As of this episode, I was telling you about the Cyberpunk video I posted, didn't I?
That was a great video, by the way. Like I think I've actually told you, but that's such a great TikTok.
Slight spoilers to Resident Evil Netflix, if that's the right term for it. But for the Netflix series, if you haven't watched it and you don't want spoiled, maybe skip ahead like 15 seconds. But basically, there's a scene in that where one of the main characters ends up like dancing to Dua Lipa's... What is that song called, actually?
I have no idea, sorry.
I can't remember, but it's a Dua Lipa song, like a very popular one just now, which completely dates the episode, or rather dates the whole show because it's like a 2020s thing. Yeah, I put that music over footage of like one of my characters walking up to a group of like corpo cyberpunk people and teabagging right in front of them. As of this episode, it's got 22,000 views. How that happened, I have no idea. I've never gotten that many views before. Not a clue. Yeah, the fun fact of the day. If you think that your podcast can't succeed, it's like, you've seen Rocky, haven't you, Adam?
Oh, I have. As a self-respecting man, I've seen Rocky.
You know at the very end where he's standing up on the podium in Rocky 4 and he goes, if I can change and you can change, we can all change. You know that?
Yeah, I know that one.
It's a bit like that, only it's me with podcasting. And I'm like, if I can get 22,000 for a teabagging video, you can get 22,000 for a teabagging video. It's all the podcasters out there, content creators, you can make it. Just teabag.
Just to say, I'm a person who in season 1 of this podcast said the phrase shopping shops. Somehow I'm still here podcasting, so you can overcome anything if I can overcome that all-time gaff.
You're on probation, there's a difference.
I think I should be on lifetime probation for that, like brain fart.
So the next question submitted by Gihad is, do you use Buy Me Coffee or Patreon, and do you think these are effective to earn money through your content? I used to use Coffee, or Ko-fi, I think it's called, for the stream, but I feel as if unless you have like a huge following, or you have like a very engaged community, then you'll get some money, but you won't get a lot from it. Like, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I can definitely see that. I mean, if you go on a lot of YouTube videos and podcasts and everything, you do that. It's quite a common thing to see, something of that type, Patreon or whatever. But yeah, I can see what you're saying. I think you're right. As in, if you get like a devoted following, I think it could be it definitely would be a very good thing. But yeah, I suppose it might be of maybe more limited utility in the beginning, but I'm sure it could still be helpful.
I think later on we should definitely have something like that, but at the same time, I don't think it's like a surefire way to get money for your content. And again, like, we wouldn't be banging on people's doors to be like, knock, knock, you know what time it is. Donate or get homing attacked. Yeah, I would say it's like worth looking into and building that kind of thing up. Like, I wouldn't say don't do it, but what I would say is if you're going to do it, plan it out first and build it up first before you actually get people investing in it. Because I would feel terrible. Like, that's one of the reasons why I've been kind of hesitant, because I would feel terrible if I had something like a patron. You know, you have people donating monthly and then you're not giving them their money's worth. I wouldn't feel comfortable with that, would you?
Oh, no, totally. Again, it would feel to me, I suppose, a bit dishonest. But yeah, no, I agree.
So the next question is, what do you do to keep producing while you're in a bad mood or feeling disappointed with the numbers? I would say talking to you, Adam, to be honest, or talking to a friend, Craigie C, and kind of getting context for why I'm feeling bad, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's probably the most. I would probably agree. It's an effective way. Just I suppose it helps to like take yourself out. You know, it's very easy to get like kind of wrapped up in the situation, and talking to somebody else can help you kind of take a step back, which is always a good thing, I think.
The one thing I would say, as I said before, with I think it was Blowfish Man TV's question, was take a step back. Like, if you've got burnout or things aren't going the way you think, like, genuinely take a step back, and the numbers will come eventually. Like, it might not be overnight, it might not be in the next few months, it might not even be in a year, because I remember when I started streaming, and I think last time I checked, I have like 1.3 thousand, give or take, followers. But back when I started, I really struggled to get the first 50. And at the end of the day, this kind of leads into the last question, which is, do numbers mean anything to you? And I'm not going to sit here and pretend like, oh, numbers don't matter. Objectively, they really don't. Because I've seen some creators who, they have hundreds of thousands of followers, but then when they do like a Twitch stream or they do like a podcast, they'll only get like a handful of listeners or viewers, whereas you'll get some people with like a very, very tiny audience, but they've got so many people engaging with them. And I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, they don't mean anything, because it can hurt when you have an episode that you put your blood, sweat and tears into, and then someone turns around and says, oh yeah, 5 people liked it, 12 disliked it, or you only get 5 views. Like, that can be hurtful, but it's more how you deal with that. Like, how do you react? How do you move forward? Do you take it in a constructive way? Is there anything you would add to that, Adam?
No, again, you're far more knowledgeable on this topic than me. It's not the number side of it is not something that I engage with a lot because, like I said, you deal far more with basically every aspect of the podcast, but especially that side of it. You deal with something more. So it's not something I've really, fortunately, had to kind of think about myself. But everything that you said there, I think, is perfect advice again, and I think that's the way to kind of to deal with it. Yeah, don't feel like you have to minimize the impact of it and be like, oh, well, it's not something that should matter to me, and just try and power on. I think it's okay to admit that it's something that bothers you or something that maybe brings you down. And I think admitting that is probably the first step to actually being more comfortable with it and, maybe not letting it bother you as much.
If it stops being fun, then yeah, take a step back, talk to someone you trust, whether it's a family member, whether it's a friend. Like, don't worry about feeling bad about it, because we're all human. You're allowed to feel bad if numbers don't match what you expected. But yeah, honestly, I feel like I should do an entire episode on that topic, because it does definitely seem like something that affects a lot of content creators.
You've got lots of really valuable advice as well, I think. So I think people would appreciate hearing that.
As I'm sweating, thinking, please tell me I've got valuable advice.
Not to say that you have to do it, so I feel like I'm forcing you into a corner now. I'm being like, next week, coming up.
My snake oil.
Chatsunami reveals all. Exactly. We'll drive around in the wagon like, was it Charles West Dickens or something from the first Red Dead Redemption?
That's exactly who I was thinking. I was like,
I love that character.
Oh, he's so good, yeah.
So great.
So the next question comes from our very own co-host of the Chatsunami segment, Green Shield 95. And Green Shield asks, is there any topic that you've covered that you would like to revisit? Ooh, I'll give that one to you first of all.
There's nothing in season 2, because I think, well, from my perspective anyway, I feel like we've done a really good job with all the topics we did in season 2. I always did want to redo the first episode I was on, which was the Halo one, but we did redo that one, and I'm a lot more happy with that second episode of the podcast, the first one that I was on, is still a great episodes, all because of Satsu, nothing to do with me. But I feel at least I was able to get a bit of personal redemption because we redid it with Halo Month. So we did do an episode on shooter games back in season 1. I've always thought that I think because the topic again is quite broad, I've always thought there might be more there. There's nothing really there's no like topic that I'm desperate to go back to, because I think for the most part we've done a really good job in covering kind of every aspect of it, and I quite enjoy doing new things. If that was maybe the one that I would say go back to. What about yourself?
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. The only thing I would say for season 1, and it's something we have actually improved on, but it was more the kind of style that I did a lot of episodes in. Like, if we're talking about a film, we would recount the play-by-play of what happens, which, don't get me wrong, that is one of my favourite episodes, the Silent Night, Deadly Night one, and Bone Alone. That's by far still one of my favourite episodes, and I wouldn't want to change that. But there was some others, like the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure ones, which, don't get me wrong, I love those episodes, and I think they're really well done, but there's a lot of it where I feel as if we were just recounting what was going on and things, and I don't know whether it kind of took away from the kind of analytical side of it. In all honesty, that's me just nitpicking, because there's not really many, other than obviously the early ones. I would probably like to redo the first episode with myself and Craigie C. Nothing against the content itself, but I feel as if because that was my very first episode, then, like I came across quite nervous and it just wasn't great. But yeah, maybe that one, but it is what it is. It's like now the podcast is what it is because we've kind of learned and evolved, as cheesy as that is. So I'm going to move on to the next question. Green Shield also says, why don't the hosts ask where Green Shield is more often? Listen, Green Shield, we put your picture on the side of like the milk cartons, okay? Give us a call, okay? We're worried about you.
I also try not to bring up your name, Green Shields, because I'm terrified that Satsunami will realise that the most sensible thing to do is to kick me off of the podcast and bring you in. So I try not to mention you too much.
You're out.
I love you, man, but you're my rival in this. I've got to think business first. Just joking.
So our next set of questions come from Marta in Spain, hola, and she says, what's a game you thought you'd like but actually hated? I'm just going to go quickly and say Xenoblade 2. Thought I liked it and it was horrific, but what about yourself, Adam?
Last year, I bought off Steam the original Alien vs Predator game. Oh, well, I'm saying I think it's one of the original ones. It was from 1999, and I'd seen a bit about it, and I'd been kind of enjoying playing retro shooters, and I thought, I really like Alien, I really like Predator, and I liked the kind of 2010 AVP game, so I was like, oh, this will be great, it'll be a lot of fun. Played it, I absolutely hated it. I think I may have messaged you that stuff, because I think it was that one where I was like, do I hate this game because I'm bad at playing it, or do I hate it because it's just a bad game? And I eventually came to the realization after playing a bit, and I was like, no, I think this is a bad game, and I hated it. And I have a bit of a track record of playing the completion, even ones I don't like, but that was a really special case where I hated everything about it. Like, I just hated the controls, hated everything. Like, I just thought, I can't play this. It's just making me too mad. That's probably the only one that I thought I'd like that I actually hated. I thought I would like Fallout 3. I don't hate that game, but I didn't really like it. I guess maybe some of the same with some of the Uncharted games. But yeah, there's really the only one that I can think that I've actually ended up hating.
Actually, mirroring what you're saying about Fallout, I think it's because I played Skyrim before I played Fallout, and I didn't hate Fallout, but I just did not enjoy it as much as Skyrim. I think it got spoiled for me.
It is one that I see why a lot of people like it, and it obviously has a very loyal fan base, but again, Fallout 3 just didn't chime with me the way it did for others.
So the next question is, what game have you spent the greatest number of hours on? Personally, I would probably say something like Sonic Adventure, but according to Steam, it is Skyrim with over like 200 hours.
I should have checked the stats. That would have been the most sensible way to do this.
But then again, probably Pokemon, to be fair. Like, I think it was Pokemon Silver. I played that so much that the clock broke in it. So, like, I lost all my, like, Pokemon in it. All of my pokes just gone, wiped, tears in the rain and all that. But what about yourself?
Probably feel like Skyrim's a good shout from me. I've played a lot of Arkham Asylum. That's probably up there. I mean, I think I did look for Battlefield 1. I had about 14 days worth of play on that. Like, at one point, it's probably gone up. So yeah, probably one of those three, I would say.
So the next question is, have you ever pretended to be sick to get out of something so you could read, play, or watch something?
Ooh, I'd probably at some point in my life. Like, I never did that for school. Like, I never pretended. If I ever was off school, it was because I was genuinely sick. I think maybe sometimes parents have asked me to do a couple of things, and especially when I've not been living with them, they've asked me to do a few things. I'm like, oh, sorry, I just don't feel well. And I don't think it was maybe specifically to play a video game or watch a film or whatever, but I'm sure I probably ended up doing something like that. So I think I'm guilty.
Again, I'm in the same boat. Like, I would never skip school or university or anything like that just for like a video game. But I remember one time when I was younger, I used to go to this youth club every week, and I remember one day the 300th episode of The Simpsons was coming on TV at the exact same time, and I remember my parents and my brothers were like, "Oh, you're just pretending." I'm like, "No, I'm really sick. Cough, cough." I ended up watching the episode. It sucks. It is one of the worst episodes of The Simpsons, but yeah,
That's your punishment.
exactly. That is my penance for
It's karma slapping you in the face.
Next question. If you could go back and give your 10-year-old self one piece of advice, what would it be?
I think I would tell myself, maybe this is very cliche, but I think it's what I would tell myself, is be comfortable with who you are. And that's something I still struggle with a little bit to this day, but I've gotten a lot better. But yeah, and I don't know, it's maybe not something I was particularly struggling with when I was 10, but it's something that I definitely feel like I struggled with as I entered like my teenage years and everything. So I think I would maybe just say that as maybe a bit of a preventative advice. Just be comfortable with who you are and what you like.
I would say exactly the same. I used to be in the boat of, like yourself, just feeling very uncomfortable with like things I liked, like for example Sonic or Pokemon or things like that. And when I went into my teenage years, I felt as if I needed to be like a whole other person. Like I would shed the skin of like childhood games and be like, oh, I'm going to play mature quote unquote games like Halo, Call of Duty, all these action-packed bombastic adventures. And really, there's nothing wrong with liking quote unquote, again, childish games. Like if you like Pokemon when you're in your 20s or 30s, that's fine. Then again, don't come up to people and like assault them in a Pikachu onesie. That's a whole like different kettle of fish. But no, I would completely agree with you. I'm going to mirror you for once and say, yeah, just feel comfortable. Also, maybe I would say like it's like that scene out of one of those time travel movies. It's like, listen, I've not got a lot of time. There's a thing called Twitch. By the way, you like red pandas now. Say it with me.
I would also say, like, please do not read the plot synopsis. Or don't read the detailed plot of Bioshock. Don't do it.
Do you think that's like the butterfly effect, you telling your younger self not to do it? And they're like, oh, I wonder what a Bioshock is. And they look it up and you're like, no.
Oh my god, I turned into Ken Levine or something.
Would you kindly? The final question is, what would the title of the book about you be if your worst enemy wrote it? Decisiveness, the silent killer, because I am terrible at making a decision. Yeah, I would say that.
Well, I know exactly what mine. And right, so let's say everything with this podcast goes horrifically wrong at the end. I know exactly what the book's going to be, and it's going to be written by Chatsunami himself. It's called Adam, the Sinner Sandwich: the freeloading anchor who sunk my podcast.
Call me Satsu. Not yet.
That's hopefully the podcast doesn't take that bad a turn, but that's what the future will be.
If we get cancelled by David Cage, maybe. But no.
I'll write a book about David Cage, locked in a cage.
The final set of text questions comes from a very talented baker and my better half, Lady McBakes, who, if you haven't checked out her cakes on Instagram, please do. Lady McBakes says, do you go for topics that interest yourselves or others? I would say we go for ourselves, don't we?
I think so. I feel like the topics that we go for interest others as well. I mean, yeah, maybe. We certainly have gone for some topical ones. That was a season we did Squid Game, didn't we?
Yeah.
About the time that it came out. And we've obviously themed things for particular times as well. Like I think when we did some of the Bond ones, we had obviously No Time to Die. But again, I feel like we do things that interest ourselves more because that's kind of how you get more engaged, I feel.
And that kind of links to the next question. Would you change your mind if a topic was more interesting to others to get more views? I feel as if we have to an extent, but it's only if we're interested in the topic. It's one thing doing a topic because it's popular at the time, but if you went in talking about something you had no idea about, then no one would take it seriously. They would just be like, well, what are you on about? Yes, Attack on Titan is about, I don't know, the only Titan I can think of is like those discount Mars bars you get in Aldi. And you spent an hour talking about Aldi getting attacked, and people will be like, have you even seen the anime? It's like, no.
Oh my god, I'd love to see an episode on Love Island, though. I think that would be hysterical.
Oh yeah. Love Island is where a group of ragtag sailors
Love Island by Dr. Moreau. The island of freaks full of Sorry, if you like Love Island, I'm not ragging I'm sure it's fine.
The penultimate question is, what did you learn from podcasting, and did you gain any valuable skills you can share with others?
I feel like for me the big one was collaborating and the importance of collaborating, but also like how fun it can be. I'm used to doing things kind of more by myself and everything, so it was nice to get a kind of change of perspective and to work with somebody else. And it's actually a really great way. I think I've learned to really value that, which I think is a really important life skill in itself. So that'd be the one I'd pick.
I would say the same as well. This is going to sound more cliche as well, but I would emphasize getting to feel more comfortable with yourself as a person. And I was thinking about this before when I was reading through the questions, but I remember listening to my voice on audio and I would like cringe and be like, oh no, it's me. And I severely suffered from that when I started making like language videos on YouTube, and then I made the Twitch streams and I was just like, oh, I hate my voice. But now I really don't care. Like, I can listen to my voice for hours as per the podcast. And honestly, it's fantastic to be able to be like, oh, I'm getting more confident in myself. I'm actually learning as well. As you said, I'm learning these skills to work with others. Yeah, no, it's absolutely fantastic. And it gives me more confidence to be able to go through these situations and, yeah, just absolutely nail it. So I would say if you're struggling with self confidence, start a podcast. The final question is, would you ever be tempted to change your content to something else? Now, this is an interesting one because this actually stems from a TikTok that I was showing Lady McBakes, where Lady McBakes and we went away to the London Warner Brothers Harry Potter studio, try saying that 5 times, and we went there to like kind of explore sets of Harry Potter. It was really fun, but the only thing was I ended up posting a lot of videos from that trip, and it seems that a lot of like my, to put it nicely, shit posts have taken off from that, and that was kind of the inspiration behind that. Like, would we ever do anything to do with traveling, or maybe in our case, Adam, like history? Would you say you'd be tempted to try like other topics for the podcast?
I would be tempted. I think there's nothing wrong with trying new things. Whether to change the whole podcast to become that specific thing, I'm not so sure. I mean, maybe if we really end up liking it, perhaps it would be a thing. But I don't think there's anything wrong with trying new things. Certainly, it's probably a good way to keep it fresh as well. But then again, if you want to talk about Sonic for the whole rest of the time, I'm fine as well with that. I'm down.
I'll need to just get a completely different podcast. Just like Spin Tsunami.
spin dash around the world. There we go. That's our travel one. Homing attack at the Leaning Tower of Pisa today.
What, to put it upright? Thank you to all of those content creators for those fantastic questions. We have a couple more from some of the really either content creators we've collaborated with in the past or just general people who do awesome content. So they have submitted a lot of voice clips asking their questions. Are you ready, Adam, for the final set?
I'm ready. I'm enjoying the ones so far, and I'm keen to dig into the last few.
So the first message comes from Mark from All of Time and Space podcast, which is absolutely a fantastic podcast. If you haven't checked it out, please do. And he sent through the following message.
Hi, this is Mark from the All of Time and Space podcast, and I just wanted to congratulate Satsu and all the guys involved in making the Chatsunami podcast in reaching the milestone of 100 episodes. I really do enjoy the variety of the content, and I'm looking forward to the next 100 episodes.
That was a lovely message, wasn't it?
Yeah, thank you so much more. That was a beautiful message.
The next person we've got is Dan from Casting Views, who has... Sorry, before I go on, I'm going to say this for every podcast because these guys are fantastic. I've actually been on one of their episodes talking about gaming and things like that. Really fun podcast. So, sorry, Dan said the following.
Hello, Chatsunami. This is Dan from Casting Views. Firstly, let me say congratulations on 100 episodes. What a milestone. Absolutely brilliant. Now, you've asked for questions. I've got 3. Am I allowed to ask you 3? Well, I don't think you can refuse, as that would be rude. So, yeah, you're going to have 3 questions. Firstly, what 2 game worlds would you love to see collide? For example, would you love to see Marcus Phoenix from Gears of War running in the Sonic world? Would you love to see Sonic fighting alongside Master Chief in Halo? So, yeah, your gaming world mashups. What would you want to see? Question 2. If you woke up tomorrow in a gaming world, which would be an absolute nightmare to wake up in and why? And which would be your kind of gaming heaven to wake up in and why? And lastly, which game mechanic do you just want to get rid of? Tomorrow, developers are not allowed to make that game mechanic anymore. Once again, congratulations on your 100 episodes. Here's to the next 100.
those are some really interesting questions. So he asked three there. So the first one was, what two game worlds would you like to see collide?
Do you know what I'm going to say for this one? I
Oh
don't know
no.
how you're going to react to this. Part of me would kind of love to see Sonic in the world of GTA.
Have you not seen the mods?
I know I haven't actually. I'll need to go check out the mods, but I can't believe they're there. But I think it was just from our talk about spin dashing and homing attacks and everything. I think there would be something like juvenile, like anarchic fun in just seeing that and seeing like Sonic like charge around and like, these cars go flying around and spin dashing into like people robbing a bank and stuff. I just think that would be a lot of fun.
So you're saying that Sonic and Edith Finch don't mesh well together?
My god, imagine that. For like pure existential like dread and melancholy, that would be amazing. Like you can outrun everything except for death.
I mean, can you imagine a game like Red Dead Redemption? But in fact, do you know what would be a really interesting one? If you combined Red Dead Redemption with Pokemon.
Is this because you watched that thing of the FPS Pokemon shooter? Is that where you're getting this idea from?
Yeah, so Craigie C sent us a video where someone created like a game where you go around shooting Pokemon. Well, that already exists. There's a game coming out called Pal World, and it's a very similar vein of mystical creatures that you have to shoot with a gun.
My god, about time, those damn mystical creatures.
Well, I mean, as Dan said in his question, talking about Sonic and Halo.
That would be a cool one. Like, I feel like we've seen a little bit of it, but obviously it would be great to see Doom and Animal Crossing combine even more fully. We've seen a sliver of it now with the Doom Slayer and Isabelle, but let's explore that more fully. Come on, Nintendo.
You know what? I redact my answer. Definitely. Where's the Doom cut, Nintendo? Where's the Doom cut of Animal Crossing? You promised us, Nintendo.
We asked for so little.
Isn't Doom out on the Switch? Or am I
Yeah,
misremembering?
no, they all came out. I think they all came out anyway, so what's the excuse now?
Exactly. Cowards. Anyway, if you woke up in a gaming world, which one would be your heaven or hell? Oh, I think hell for me would be Pokemon, which you would think that would be my heaven until you realise Pokemon Beedrill exists, and I am deathly afraid of wasps and creatures like that.
That would be the worst thing. Oh my god.
Whenever people play Pokemon, they're like, oh, look at these fluffy creatures. Oh, we're going to go on an adventure. Oh, can you imagine fighting something like Articuno or Mewtwo or things? No, I would shit myself if I got to Viridian Forest. I couldn't go into Viridian Forest. I'd just be like, nah, not for me. No, I'll take an Uber to the next town. I'm not...
Also, ghosts exist in the Pokemon world. Like, it's a confirmed fact.
They get even worse. Like, there's genuinely some, like, horror bait they just shove into the later games. It's like there's a sandcastle that kills people, and I think I've sent you the picture, but it's like a picture of this sandcastle pulling down Pikachu into the sands. Like, why would you want to live in a world like that? It's bad enough creatures in this world. Why would you want to live in that where they have superpowers?
It's an excellent point.
Oh, I mean, if I was doing a cliche, I would say Sonic, but then again, things get blown up, and I don't want to be a robot.
You don't want to get spin dashed to death either.
Like, what would yours be?
I think my heaven, like, and maybe it's because we mentioned it there, I think Animal Crossing would be like a really fun, chill place just to hang out. And I mean, I know you get massively in debt from Tom Nook, but you know, debt's a fact of real life right now, so you know, at least I'm accustomed to that. I think honestly, my hell would be something like the Tomb Raider games or the Uncharted games, just because as somebody who really enjoys history, just having to watch all these ancient historic places just get destroyed by like Nathan Drake because he's like quipping away, like knocking down all this stuff would just be my nightmare, my utter hell. Probably come and snap my neck as well because he's a psychopath.
I was going to say, is your hell not The Last of Us then?
Oh, I mean, in both ways, yes, because it's like a horrific world, but also as well because then everybody would come and tell me, isn't this the greatest thing ever? But no! It's fine, but it's not the greatest thing ever.
Do you know what would be another like really bad game in hell? Overcooked.
Oh, to Overcooked, that's a good one as well.
Because you can prepare all the food you want, but you can never eat it. You're just forced to serve people.
In such random locations as well. It's like, why are kitchens here?
Why is everything on fire? Where am I?
We build this kitchen in a volcano.
And you're just jumping in the water, constantly respawning, like, why can't I die? Yeah, and of course, buns. I think Halo would be pretty miserable as well, like constantly getting attacked.
Yeah, just the Covenant just glassing your planet wouldn't be fun, I guess.
Everyone wants to be a Spartan. No one wants to be average Joe filing his taxes in New Mombasa. Where's the New Mombasa game about Average Joe 343? Create it, you cowards.
Average Joe 343, I love that. Come on, make it.
The final question from Dan is, what gaming mechanic would you get rid of? Ooh.
Can I say a controversial one here? I don't know how you feel about it.
Spin
But
dashing.
spin dashing, yeah, exactly. Homing attack. Fast travel.
Ooh, now that is actually.
I just recently finished up my like year and a half long playthrough of Skyrim, and I'd basically been using fast travel constantly throughout. I watched a couple of things about people arguing against fast travel, and I made a decision once again just to actually like stop using it in Skyrim, and I really came to appreciate the world again. I don't know, and I get there's some advantages to like elements of fast travel, but I don't know, like I do feel like I was forgetting how great that world of Skyrim was and how much fun I had just traversing it. So I don't know. I mean, for me, that's the one. Just because it's the most recent, that's the one I'd probably get rid of.
Do loot boxes count as game mechanics?
Oh, I would say so.
Yeah, I know it's technically a mechanic outside of the game. If that counts initially, and that's my kind of go-to answer, I don't know though. It's a tough one, isn't it? There's a lot of things you play subconsciously, and you kind of think, "Oh, you're supposed to do this, you're supposed to do that." In fact, no, sorry, I'll tell you one I would get rid of: time limits.
That's fair. I can see that.
Don't get me wrong, there's some levels where they're necessary, but see, after playing Simpsons Hit and Run, and getting timed out. Like, to briefly explain, I played Simpsons Hit and Run as a celebration stream, and I got to the very final level where you have to drive from one side of the map to the other with this very volatile thing of like nuclear waste. I played it for ages, could not complete the level, and I was getting so tired and frustrated because as soon as you drive into the playground of Springfield Elementary and you have to like awkwardly park underneath the UFO, and that's what I did. I awkwardly parked. And I kid you not, I was a pixel away because the car was going up, the timer was still going down, and it was 1 second, and then it reached 0. And just as the car was about to hit the UFO, it's like, oh, time's up. No, I would get rid of that. I don't know. I think that between that and Mile High Club, because that one really messed with me.
That's my greatest shame. My greatest video game shame still.
For anyone who doesn't know what the heck I'm talking about there, Mile High Club is the level, or rather bonus level, in Modern Warfare, the original one, and trying to complete that in Veteran, you have to like get through the entire plane in like 2 minutes, I want to say, minute and a half, something like that. It is so difficult. I've done it, but I did it once in university, and that was after ages of like practicing it over and over and over and over again, copying people on YouTube. So time limits, screw 'em. Life's too short. Stop timing me in my video games.
Ironically.
Our next question comes from Luke, who is from the Nerd Nostalgic podcast. So again, fantastic podcaster. If you haven't checked him out, please do. And he has put in the following question.
Howdy, Chatsunami. Hey, howdy, Adam. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're good. First of all, I want to say congratulations on your 100th episode. I am incredibly jealous, but I'm coming up quite fast behind you, and I'll catch up to you eventually one day. But for anybody listening, this is Luke from the Nerd Nostalgic podcast, but that's not really important. What's important is you celebrating your 100th celebration. You asked people to send you questions, and I have a fantastic question for the both of you. So as you know, I'm going to do a selfish plug right now, but as you know, I'm currently going through a series of events for my podcast where I talk about movie tie-in video games, and I talk about my nostalgia and the games that I played when I was younger, things that I enjoyed and playing them now as an adult. And I was just wondering, are there any sort of movie tie-in games that you both played when you were younger that still to this day resonate with you? Still a game where you're like, oh, I remember playing that game when I was younger. It changed my whole perspective on life, or, you know, it changed my life, or it was the worst game I ever played, or anything like that. So is there one or multiple movie tie-in games that you played and you were like, you know what, that game is going to be the benchmark cornerstone of my game in life moving forwards? It doesn't have to be a movie tie-in game, but, you know, more interesting if you've got a movie tie-in game that you can add. So if you do, great. If you don't worry about it. I just wanted to come on here and say congratulations on the 100th episode. Honestly, I love what you guys do, and keep it up. And let's hopefully you can get to 200 and then eventually 1,000, and then have your own studio, dripping in money, and then forget all of us and move in next to Joe Rogan. Who knows what will happen, but I can see nothing but greatness in both of you guys' futures. So generally, all jokes aside, congratulations, and thank you for taking my question.
So, first of all, Luke, thank you so much for your very kind words. They are really much appreciated. And yes, he basically asked there, are there any movie tie-in games that resonated with you, or any games in general?
Yeah, again, just to say again, thank you so much, Luca, for that. It was a great message. So thank you so much. It's a good thing, like, tie-in games, certainly when I was young, like, I feel that was the kind of height of, well, I say the height, they've been around for a while, but I felt like that was the peak of tie-in games was when we were growing up. I felt like they were everywhere. You usually wouldn't get a big film released without some kind of game attached along it, and they were certainly, like, a large part of my gaming collection when I was growing up. Like, I loved a lot of the Lord of the Rings ones. I loved, like, the Two Towers game and the Return of the King game. I used to love the Enter the Matrix game. It wasn't exactly, it was a tie-in game. It wasn't exactly like it was an original story and everything, but I used to really love that one. I remember loving an Indiana Jones game that I got from my Xbox, one of the first games I got from my Xbox. Again, it was original story, but it was kind of tied into the plot of Temple of Doom. But yeah, like, I mean, those were games that I absolutely loved, absolutely adored playing. I've said this before, I think the most important game in my sort of gaming life is the original Halo, just for kind of setting me on a path of what kind of games, the gaming genre that I really like of FPS games, and just kind of showed me what video games were, and also making me a devoted Xbox player. So I think Halo is definitely the most important game. Later on, like when I was a teenager, I think something like Half-Life 2, Bioshock kind of showed me what else gaming could be and kind of broadened my mind that way. And then recently it's probably something like What Remains of Edith Finch. I think just, again, showing me again what video games could be. Something like Papers, Please as well. So those are the ones I think are most important to me.
I totally agree with you when you said about us having the best tie-in games when we were growing up. I mean, we even had, like, going back to something I said earlier, we had, like, the Harry Potter games, we had the Star Wars games. My God, one of the best Star Wars games I think I've ever played, and this is weird to say nowadays because you usually don't associate tie-in movie games with, like, good games, but the Revenge of the Sith game, oh, that was fantastic at the time.
That was a good one.
I really want to go back and play it again because I just had so much fun with it at the time. There was the Lord of the Rings games as well, and I'm not going to lie, not to the same standard, but I remember years ago renting games like the tie-in for a series of unfortunate events and even Ghost Rider, and I remember them not being great games, but I do remember having a lot of fun with them at the time. So yeah, there was fun to be had, but I definitely think games like the Return of the King one, especially for Revenge of the Sith, there'll probably be other ones that I'm completely forgetting here. In fact, do you know what the best movie tie-in game was growing up?
Probably, I mean, again, I don't know the one that you're going to say here, but probably my favorite was probably the Batman Begins one. Just that one just came to my mind there. I used to love that one, but what's the one you're thinking of?
Super Mario.
Do you know what? You've won the argument. That's right. You know what? Well played, sir. I won't clap my hands because I'll knock my microphone over, but well played.
The only time when the game was better than the movie. That and Mortal Kombat and all of that, yeah, you get the joke. In terms of, like, games in general, there's been a couple. You've got your usuals, your Pokemons, your Sonics. Like, Sonic Adventure, again, I've said this a million times, but Sonic Adventure to me was probably my turning point in appreciating video games, because I have to admit, when I was younger, I remember watching my brothers play, like, the NES, the Sega Mega Drive, even the SNES, and I liked playing them, but I never really got into it. There were two particular games when I was younger that actually turned me into, like, a gamer. The first, of course, being Pokemon Yellow, which I remember getting my first Game Boy, getting that game itself, it was fantastic. And the second one being watching my brother play Sonic Adventure and getting into it like that, and then I would play games like Banjo-Kazooie and all of those platformers, so I absolutely loved it. But later on in life, playing games that recently, I would say, like, because I've been getting quite fatigued with AAA games, you know, whether it's Pokemon, whether it's Call of Duty, whether it's Halo, you know, I'm just, like, tired of complaining about those kind of games. So when I found a game that came out, like, in 2011, 2012, To the Moon especially, and I found, like, I kind of realised what games could be. Like, I went in a full indie binge with, as you know, with Edith Finch, To the Moon, Coffee Talk as well is an absolutely fantastic one I'm working my way through, Obra Dinn, and yeah, of course, finally, The Papers, Please. So yeah, no, it's nice to kind of see these games later on in life and get an appreciation from a more mature perspective. So yeah, love them. So we have one more set of questions. Are you ready, Adam?
I am. Let's hit the finish line.
The final question comes from a friend of the channel and a Twitch streamer who has been on the channel as well, Searching the Sun, and she says the following.
Hi, Satsu. So I got a question for you. Actually, two. One more personal and one about the podcast. So, starting with the personal, how would your parents describe what you do? And to the second question, what's the best way to start a podcast?
The first question she asked was, how would your parents describe what you do? I'm handing it to you, Adam.
I think my mum would try her best to explain what I did, probably not get it right at all, but try her best in a very kind of sweet way. And I can just imagine my dad probably rolling his eyes. That's probably what I imagine, to be honest.
Yeah, I would say my parents would probably say, first of all, a what cast and a why cast. What? Why? How? What? Why are you talking to strangers about your gaming opinions? Why are you talking about Birdemic? What? Yeah, a why cast, essentially. And the final question is, what is the best way to start a podcast? Well, in the words of a brand that is clearly never going to sponsor us, just do it.
The brand of Shia LaBeouf.
Yep. Don't let your dreams be dreams, people. I would genuinely say, would you agree with that? Just jump into it and do
Yeah,
it.
just jump in, or in my case, something very particular to me, attach yourself to a shooting star like Satsu, and try not to weigh them down too much.
Oh, no. In all seriousness, I would say just do it. Nowadays, you can start a podcast on your phone. The best application, I would say, is Anchor, to be honest, because as much as I love Zencaster and everything, that's come after years of using Anchor. So if you want to start off, use something like that. And you don't even have to use like a proper mic. Like, you don't need a huge setup. You don't need a fancy MacBook that costs £1,200. You don't need all the lights and bells and whistles. All you need is just a microphone that is good enough quality for people to understand you and an idea. The only thing I would say is, if you are starting a podcast, it's not a crime if you don't have an original idea to be like, oh, I think, I don't know, Pokemon, or let's say Gears of War. Oh, I think Gears of War is a great game. You know, it's like, that's fair enough. But if you're very insulting or you want to go for controversial opinions, like, don't do that. Don't fill up the gaping hole that's kind of coming through with a lot of podcasts where they're saying like very controversial and stupid things. And all I'll say is, you want to make a podcast that you can be proud of, and you want to make a podcast that you enjoy, things that you want to talk about, things that you want to discuss, things that you think that, like, don't worry about what other people think. Like, if your favourite game, as I said jokingly, but if your favourite game's like Sonic, if you love Star Wars, if you love Harry Potter, if you love, I don't know, David Cage even. David Cage is giving me the thumbs up in the corner. I don't know why he's still here though, but if you love those topics, then go for it. Just honestly, get your phone, download Anchor or download any other podcast app and record on your phone, upload. The main thing is starting, because that was the thing I was worried about. I put it off for the longest time. Yeah, eventually I just thought, screw it. And thanks to the support of my obviously amazing friends, such as Craigie C, Adam, Green Shield, and all of the rest of them, honest to God, it was so, I was just glad they were there. So it was good to have a supportive environment there. But even if you don't have that, just go for it. Don't feel as if you have to worry. Because as I said jokingly there, but life is too short. So if you want to do a podcast, do a podcast. Do it about anything you want. And as long as you're not, spewing hate or encroaching on anyone's rights or just being an ass in general, genuinely, just go for it. So any kind of closing points to that you would like to make, Adam?
No, just again, just co-sign everything Satsu says. And I think just as an endpoint for myself, I just wanted to say thank you again so much to everybody for putting the questions in. And thank you so much, Satsu, for just keeping this ship running and just being amazing and doing all the hard work that you've done over this season, over the last season, since you started this thing. Like, it's been great to be a part of this journey. And thank you so much for having me on. And just thank you for being an amazing person and running all this. Long may it continue.
And I think I can hear the live audience outside awing at that. But no, in all seriousness, no, thank you as well, because this is when it's going to get a bit sappy and emotional, but genuinely thank you as well, Adam, for being part of this channel and part of the podcast, the show, whatever you want to call it. Thank you for being a part of it, because I don't think genuinely I could have done this all without you. Whether or not I do the editing or we're recording or whatever, without you, probably the podcast wouldn't have as long of a lifespan as something like Twitch or things like that. So genuinely, I do mean it from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for A, putting up with me, and B, like, not only volunteering yourself to be the co-host, but coming up as well with amazing ideas, and yeah, just putting up with me as we kind of grew the podcast and made sure this is what we wanted to be.
Well, I say it every week, but I mean it the most this week. It's my absolute pleasure. I've had so much fun doing this, and I can't wait to go on to do the next season and the season after that, and for however long this goes on. It's been great, and just thank you so much for letting me be a small part of this, and for you for doing everything else. So thank you so much, Satsy.
You say you're a small part, but your sandwich is half of the logo.
I mean, that definitely should not be half the logo. If being honest, I'm glad to be up there. There's no other place I'd want my sandwich to be.
And I just want to take this opportunity to say once again, thank you all so much for supporting us throughout the episodes, whether it be Chatsunami, Chatsunani, or even the Chatsu shorts, even the streams on Twitch. Genuinely, thank you all so much for listening. And also thank you to all the amazing content creators who have come on for interviews and shared their thoughts about their own processes and just life in general. So I just want to say a huge thank you to everybody who has been supportive. Of course, a huge shout out to Green Shield 95 for coming on the Chatsunami episodes. Huge shout out for Craigie C for giving us that push to actually start the podcast, and again with his amazing podcast as well. And yeah, honestly, like, to all the people who have come on, to all the listeners out there, whoever has shared it, has listened to it, you know, we're getting a lot more people from abroad as well listening. We've got people from Spain, China, Germany, Japan, you know, like Sweden, the whole of the UK, America, Canada, just all of these fantastic people. If I missed a country, honestly, you know who you are. You're absolutely fantastic. So thank you all so much for joining us in this adventure. And yeah, here's to another 100 episodes. Next time, we will be returning for season 3. We've got so many exciting things coming up. We have Terminator Month, of course, which I know you are very excited about, Adam.
That's the only way I can. My high-pitched shrill.
All I'm saying is, I didn't watch Genesis and Dark Fate just for shits and giggles, okay? We've got that. We've also got a first and last coming up for Doom. We have so many Chatsunamis coming up. We have Chatsunamis. We have a episode on a particular group of creatures that are yellow. I'm not going to spoil it, but you know what I'm talking about, Adam.
I may know.
Something to do with a banana, maybe not. As always, guys, thank you all so much for joining us, and we cannot wait to see you in season 3. But until that time, stay safe, stay awesome, and most importantly, Adam, do you want to finish it off?
Stay hydrated. Damn, I mean hydrated. Damn it.
Cut.
You're off the show.
And that was Adam's last episode. Thank you for coming.
Bye, guys.
But in all seriousness, bye, guys.